Hi guys, let's take a look at Young Justice. I was planning to make a video about the TV show and then a video about the comics, but it would have been redundant, so I'll just make one video about the whole thing. Let's start with the TV show. The TV show is all kinds of awesome. If you haven't seen it yet, go and watch it, it was worth it. There's only 2 seasons, and from what I understand, those seasons have been added to Netflix. So if you're a member of Netflix, you have no excuses. You have to watch that show. It's a really, really good show. I remember when we first heard about them making a Young Justice TV show, we thought they were trying to make a more kid-friendly show or something, or a kiddie show, seeing how it essentially features teens, and in some cases fairly young teens with Captain Marvel and Beast Boy. But it wasn't childish at all. It was a great show for anyone, whether you were a teeny young ones who could possibly identify yourself in the teen characters, or even an old warhorse like me who could appreciate the rich storytelling that the stories had, and even the relationship between the characters. Holy crap, that was all kinds of awesome. And also there was a lot of Easter egg from classic comics. So it was all kinds of awesome, and it was good for everyone, whether you were a young one or an old guy. It was perfect. If it was so awesome, why was it canceled? There's a few reasons for that. One of the reasons is that animated TV shows often depend on merchandising to make a profit. Very often, a TV show will not make their money just by being sold to the broadcaster. What they also need to do is they need to sell a lot of merchandising in order to be able to be profitable. And sadly, in the case of Young Justice, no one bought the toys, and I can't blame people. The toys were not very good, and which is the sad part is that they released some really crappy toys, and then they were surprised that people did not buy them. And also some of the merchandising, like the TV game. They made a TV game for PS4, and I'm not sure if it was on another platform, but I'm pretty sure it was on PS4. But the game came out 6 months after the show was canceled. So again, it's as if they did everything they could to make sure that the merchandising would be crappy so that people would not buy it, or that the merchandising would be released so late that it wouldn't matter, the show would be gone by then. Also, one of the ways that TV shows make money is by selling advertising. In the case of animated TV shows or cartoons, if you prefer, usually what they try to do is that they try to sell advertising to toy companies. The problem is that toy companies will not advertise in your cartoon if you don't serve the audience they are going after. So let's say you're Hasbro and you have a toy line, and your toy line is for, let's say, 6 years old. Well, you're not going to advertise in a show like Young Justice. If a show like Young Justice is watched by people who are like 15 and 20 years old, well, you're not going to want to advertise in a show like Young Justice. So you're going to ask the broadcaster to make shows for 6-year-olds, and if they feel that the show you're doing it does not attract the audience that you want, you're not going to buy advertising in their shows. So maybe the audience watching Young Justice was an older audience, which means that they could not sell advertising to toy companies. That's quite possible. So essentially, most of the reason that led to Young Justice being cancelled had nothing to do with the quality of the show. It had nothing to do with the ratings. It had to do with the merchandising not selling, and the audience that was watching the show probably wasn't the audience that the toy companies wanted in order to be able to buy advertising in the show. So from both ends, the show probably wasn't making the money that the producers or the broadcasters were hoping it would make. Which is sad because holy crap, was it good? And if you've noticed, that would explain why essentially the cartoons, the DC cartoons, pretty much went in a different direction after that. You can see with Teen Titans Go, they're really going for a really young audience because that's the kind of audience that the toy company wants to see watching the show, and that's the kind of audience that the toy companies are targeting with their products. You can also see it with there's an upcoming Justice League cartoon called Justice League Ashen or something like that. Again, you can see how they're pretty much aiming that at a much younger audience. By contrast, you have something like Batman the Killing Joke that actually targets an older audience, but the Batman the Killing Joke doesn't depend on merchandising, and it doesn't depend also on selling advertising to toy companies. Essentially, the movie by itself is what will make money or not. It's the DVD sales or the streaming sales that will decide if the movie makes money or not. I should probably make a video about Batman the Killing Joke movie that was just released. I'll have to get some thoughts. As for the comics itself, I have to admit that I did not really read the comic per se. I read a handful of issues here and there. Like I read the first, I don't know, 2 or 3 issues, and quickly decided that it wasn't for me. The comic was clearly aimed at a younger audience, and at the time it was published, I was way too old for that comic, sadly. Which is sad. I was a big fan of Peter David, who was writing the comic at the time, and I kind of liked the artwork. It wasn't the best artwork in the world, but it was serviceable, and it did a good job portraying teens. So it was good for what it was. So enough rambling, and let's start looking at our characters. Let us start with Robin. This is as close to the TV version as we can get. Sadly, we would need a better Robin chest. And for the cape, we would need a cape that can be black on the outside and yellow on the inside. Uh, but we don't have that, sadly, in DC Universe Online. Or at least I should say we don't have that yet. So for Robin, we have this Robin chest, which has all kinds of straps, like a billion different straps. Sadly, that seems to be the kind of design that we can expect in DC Universe Online most of the time. Once in a while, we will get an awesome slimline suit, but most of the time, sadly, we will get design that have way too much detail for no good reasons. Personally, this is more the kind of design that I enjoy. A slim design that is streamlined and simple, but that is powerful. It doesn't take much sometimes to create a good design, and this is a perfect example of something that is simple but effective and that you recognize instantly. It doesn't need a billion straps, it doesn't need a billion pouches, and it's instantly recognizable. And all you really need to create that design essentially is the protege chest. It's a chest that you can get in the Gotham Wasteland by gathering. I'm never sure if it's briefing or investigations, but I made a video about this, so I'll link the video in this video. But if you don't want to wait to be tier 5, because you have to be tier 5 to get the Protege chest, you can essentially use the Chevron Slimline to create the Nightwing look, and it'll be good enough. And here again we have Robin, but this time it's the comic version. Essentially you have a lot more green. When they made the version for the TV show, they pretty much replaced everything that was green with black. So instead of being red, green, and yellow, the costume pretty much became black, yellow, and red. Which was okay. The look on the TV show worked well, and you could still recognize it as being Robin. And here we have Superboy. Essentially, at some point in the comics, they gave him like a t-shirt and a pair of jeans. They pretty much kept that look for the TV show. Although in the TV show, they replaced the jeans with like something that kind of looks like the combat pants from this universe online, and it gave him some sort of combat boots or something similar. But overall, they stayed pretty close to the comic, but they took a few liberties still. Of course, in the comic originally, he had more of a slimline costume, although he had this weird leather jacket that was popular in the 90s. We cannot reproduce the leather jacket look in this universe online, at least not yet. But, well, actually, there is a leather jacket that I could have used, but I wouldn't have had the Superman emblem in the front. So this is about as close as I could get with the styles that we had access to. And with the Stalwart Defender chest, holy crap, does it look awesome. To be more accurate, I should have used the reverse slimline, but I will use it for the next one. Here we have another version in the comic. Essentially, I used the reversed slimline for that one. Although for the previous version where I used the Stalwart Defender chest, I could have used the reverse slimline also. So you could use either version to recreate your very own Superboy. But again, this is pretty much as close to that version of the character that I could come up with. Essentially, I would have needed some better pants, but that's what can you do? And here is a slight variation where essentially I used the banded glove and boots. And here we have Arsenal, also known as Speedy earlier on in the series. I wasn't able to reproduce his Speedy look. Essentially, I was missing the hat to begin with, and even for the rest of the suit, it wasn't very good. Even in this version, it's not really exactly like the style of the character, but it's as close as I was able to get with the styles that we have access to in this universe online. And next we have Aqualad. I wasn't sure if I should go with the tattoos or not. I went with the tattoos, but looking at it now, I pretty much regret it. Although it's not too bad, but it doesn't look as good as I hoped it would. For the rest, it's pretty much slimline stuff, and essentially it's the tank top that we got in the summer seasonal that he's wearing. And here is an attempt at the Kid Flash version of the TV show. I would have needed some better goggles, maybe the Catwoman goggles, but even then they wouldn't really look good. So again, this is about as close to the character as I was able to get. The Zoom T-shirt kind of helps. For the goggles, I used the sniper goggles. That's pretty much the better option I had. And for everything else, it's pretty much slimline stuff. And now we have our friend, the Blue Beetle. I probably should have made a video just with Blue Beetle, with the different Blue Beetles like Ted Cord and Jaime Reyes and Dan Garrett. Maybe I'll do that some other time. I will see. So this is about as close to the character as I was able to get. It's close enough that we can tell that it's supposed to be Blue Beetle, even though it's not really, it doesn't really look like it. And here we have Batgirl, which doesn't look all that much like the version in the TV show. Ideally, I would have needed the Daring Vigilante headpiece. Sadly, I did not have that headpiece for that character. And the emblem isn't quite as big, but again, there's nothing we can do about the emblems. We use the emblems we have, and then they're as big as they are on the styles, and that's all we can really do. And for the boots, I probably should have used some other boots, but these are the boots I had. And here we have Wonder Girl with our brand new Wonder Woman emblem. Essentially, it was easier than I thought to actually recreate that look. All we needed was a t-shirt, some of the slimline leggings, and there's some running shoes, type of shoes that we can give her, which essentially allowed us to be pretty close to the actual look of the character in the TV show, and even in the comic at some point. And in the comic, at some point, she also had a red costume, not unlike this one. Essentially, it was short sleeved, but for the rest, it's pretty similar to what we're seeing right now. Again, that's pretty easy to reproduce. It's just a few slimline styles put together, and that gives us a pretty close approximation to the Wonder Girl comic. And of course, the Wonder Woman emblem is the cherry on top of the sundae. And here's our friend Impulse. I had a tough time trying to recreate him. Essentially, I don't have the proper build. You may notice I'm usually using one or two different builds for those characters. I'm not going to respect the build of my character every time I make those videos, and I don't have characters of every build. And even if I had characters of every build, they don't have all the styles. So this is about as close to Impulse as I was able to get, and it's not really that close. And there's also this version that kind of sort of could look like that, but ideally the middle part should be shaped in some sort of lightning thingy. The same with the previous version. But again, this is about as close as I was able to get. Like there shouldn't be any red on the arms, but that's the only style that could work with the pants that I'm wearing right now. And here is our friend Red Tornado. It doesn't look exactly like him, but it's close enough that we get the idea. For the cape, I wasn't sure if I should use the Ra's al Ghul cape or the Miraculous cape. I went with the Ra's al Ghul cape. Everything else is slimline, other than the helmet and the cape maybe. But this is pretty much as close to Red Tornado as I was able to get within the styles that we have access to in this universe online. So that's pretty much it for Young Justice. Essentially, for some of the characters, it was harder than I thought to try to recreate their looks. So I got as close as I was able to within the context of this universe online. But hopefully, with time, as they add more styles to the game, maybe we'll be able to create a more accurate version of the Young Justice members. So that's pretty much it for now, guys. So thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.